Write a 2-column proof. Example 5, given that A is parallel to B. Now, if we haven't gone over this yet, or if you don't remember, do you see this little symbol right there? Okay, that little symbol means parallel. So if you see those two vertical lines right next to each other, I'm telling you something is parallel. So then, and X is parallel to Y. So if you look at your picture, I know that this guy is parallel to this guy, and I know that this guy is parallel to this guy. Prove that angle 2 is congruent to angle 16. Now, angle 2 is right here, and angle 16 is down here. So before we look at this too closely, let's set up our proof. Just like before, we're going to have our work. We're going to have our reasons. Then we're going to have number 1. And number 1 is still always your given. So we're going to fill in A is parallel to B, and X is parallel to Y. Then we're going to put a number 2. And we're going to go look for something we know. Now, first things first, if I know that these two lines are parallel, and I'm just kind of focused on number 2, okay? If you're doing parallel lines cut by a transversal, number 2, here's your parallel lines, and your transversal, if I'm trying to get to number 2, is right here. Do we notice that 2 and 16 are not touching the same transversal? So therefore, you can't say anything about 2 and 16. You can say something about like 2 and 9, or 2 and 10, or 2 and 11, or 2 and 12, because they're still touching this, you got a green parallel, which are connected by this red line. But you can't, so you can jump from like left to right, but you can't jump diagonal. The other way you could do this, because there's more than one way to solve this, is you could say 2 something to 6, because if these are your parallel lines, then from top to bottom are connected by this green line. So 2 something 6, 2 something 5, 2 something 8, 2 something 7. Okay, so I'm going to go back here, and I'm going to focus on going from 2 over to this group. And given that we have a congruent sign up here, I kind of want to know what 2 is congruent to over here. And I'm specifically going to pick out 2 is congruent to 10. And I know, let's see, angle 2 is congruent to angle 10. And I know that because they're corresponding angles. So they're both on the top of the transversal, on the right of the parallel line. So these are corresponding. And if you put that, I'm completely happy, but it's actually the corresponding angle theorem. Corresponding angles are congruent. Okay. Now, remember how I said you make 2 statements and then you connect them? Well, at the moment I have 2 statements, but you can't connect a parallel line statement with a congruent statement, so we actually need one more. So, number 3. Now, we're sitting at 10. Well, 10, we could probably go down here, because if I have my red parallel lines, these are parallel, the red ones, then the green one here is my transversal. So 10 is congruent to who down here? Well, 14, yes, they're corresponding, but I really want to get to 16. Okay, that's who I'm trying to get to. So 16, yeah, they're congruent. So I can say angle 10 is congruent to angle 16 because they are alternate exterior angles. So alternate exterior angle theorem. Now, at this point, I have 2 statements. So I'm going to connect my 2 statements into another statement. So let's look at this. If 2 is congruent to 10, and 10 is congruent to 16, So 2 equals 10, 16 equals 10. They're equal to the same thing. Then what can I say about 2 and 16? We can say angle 2 is congruent to angle 16, and that is your transitive property. Let's go back and check. We were trying to prove that angle 2 is congruent to 16. We've done that.